Hello folks, welcome to another edition of BC Renovation Magazine. In this video I'm going to show you how I built this set of stairs here. So if you're interested in seeing that, I'm going to give you step-by-step instructions, pardon the pun, on how to build this little set of stairs like this for a deck. Stay tuned folks. Alright folks, so I'm going to do my best to try and explain this to you, how to build these stairs. So I've got one stringer cut out, so we call these pieces that the stairs rest on stringers. And the on the stringer we've got this, the upright part here is called a riser. And this is called, where the tread sits, this is called the run. So we have the rise and the run. If we take a line across the tips of the steps, we call that the line of flight. So we're making these steps to fit. We're not buying these, pre-cut at the lumberyard. Sometimes you can go to the lumberyard and you can see these stringers. They're pre-cut. I cut my own. I cut them out of pressure treated material, and so the material that I like to use is 2x12. So the 2x12 gives you a nice, amount of wood here, for these short sets of stairs. This is a short set of stairs. It's only 6 risers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 risers, and so it leaves you a 2x12 leaves you enough meat in here. And we are doing what's called an open stringer. So the end of the stringer is going to be open. And you'll see once we get a little further in the video what I mean by that. This old set of stairs here is a closed stringer. So you can see how the 2x12 comes up to the edge of the line of flight. So again, this is our line of flight up here, and you can see how the nosings on the treads, it goes up. Ours are going to be open on the end, so you won't have that piece of wood in the end. So we call that an open stringer. Again, this is treated wood, so anytime you do any cuts, you want to use the wood preservative. I got my little can of wood preservative over there, and you just do the end cuts. I haven't done it on this board yet, but the way we calculate this is we take the distance. Now I've done my layout, so this is my left stringer, and I'm going to have one on the right here, right over here, and then I'm going to have one in the center. And so the way I'm building my my steps is I'm using the same material that I'm using on the deck. So this is going to be my my tread material, and these are 5.5, so it gives me an 11 inches of material. Okay, so 2 of these is 11 inches across. And so I want to have a 1-inch nosing on my tread all the way around. So with an 11-inch tread, the run is going to be 10 inches because you keep it back an inch. Okay, so you make your run 10, and I'm just using this to fit my boards. Okay, so you can alter this however you want, but this is how I do it with this material that I'm using, and for decks. So how I figure out my rise is I have to take the distance from the top of the deck to the top of my brick landing down here. And all I do with that is I just take my 4-foot level and I just set it up there on the top of the deck, and I just make it level, and then I just measure from the bottom of the level down to where the pavers are. And in this case I've got 44 5/8 of an inch from the landing to the top of my deck. So I want 6 risers, so I've got 6 risers, so this counts as a riser here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the bottom one is 6. So I have to take 44 5/8 of an inch and divide it into 6, and what that gives me is 7 7/16 of an inch. Now the maximum rise that you want to have is 7 7/8 around here. That's the code. You can't go any higher than that. A really nice rise is 7 1/4, 7 1/4, 7 1/2. So it's 7 7/16. I'm right in there at a very comfortable rise, you know, so it's not too tall for older people and kids. It makes a nice a nice set of steps combined with like an 11-inch tread. It's a very comfortable set of stairs to walk on. So how do I lay this out? So what I do is I use a square, just use a framing square. Okay, and I've got this one marked out here. And so I just start laying this out with my square, and all I do is I hold my square in here, and so I hold it on the 7, in my particular case here, I'm holding it on the 7/16 of an inch mark right there. So I line it up with that pencil mark, or well, it's actually the edge of the 2x12, okay, and then I go 10 on this end, okay, and then I just draw my line on there. I go down and I line up the intersection of, you know, where this the square lines up with this coming out of here, and again I just go, you know, 7 7/16 and 10. All right, and I just go down until I get my 6 risers, okay, and you know, and then I just cut it out, and I just cut it out with a circular saw. I got my circular saw there, and I cut through here up to this part here, and then I come in this way from this side, and then there's this little tip left, and then you have to finish it with the handsaw. So then, you know, once I have that, then I finish with the handsaw, and I'll show you that in a bit here. Now there's a couple things that you have to compensate for, and this is where people go wrong when they're building stairs. So we are going to be putting a closed riser on here. Now quite often you'll see open risers, and to me that's a really cheap way of doing it. It looks cheap. You know, your foot can go off the back end of the riser. I just don't like it. I like to have my risers closed. And so what I'm going to be putting on here, and I'll show you this in a bit, is a 1/2 inch treated plywood for a riser. Okay, so I'll be adding a 1/2 inch here to each of the fronts of each of these risers, and then once I have that done, then I'll be putting the treads on top of that. So I have to compensate for that 1/2 inch piece of plywood. So I'm not going to be putting any plywood on here. This is going to be my finished riser here. By the time my 1-inch board comes on this, it'll be up above this this joint here, and so I have to compensate by cutting a 1/2 inch off the back of this. Okay, so this one is 9. The top one is 9.5, because by the time we add a 1/2 inch plywood here, it's going to make it 10. So 9.5 plus 10. All right, so then if we put a 1/2 inch here, then we're going to be 9.5, but then by the time we put this one on, then this will be 9.5 plus a 1/2, so that will make it 10 again. So you have to compensate on the first one. So a lot of people will forget to do that. They'll leave the top one at 10, they put their plywood on the front, and then what happens is they put the tread on, and then the top tread for some reason only has a 1/2 inch nosing instead of an inch. All the rest of them will have an inch. Top one will have only 1/2 inch. So you have to take that 1/2 inch off of here to compensate for it. Likewise, you have to compensate for your treads. Okay, so our tread material is 1 inch thick, and so here I've got 7 7/16 from the top of this run here, this tread. It's not the tread, it's the run, from here to the bottom, okay, of my 1 inch board on the deck. So so this is actually 8 7/16 from the top of the deck now to this riser. When I put my tread on here, it'll be 1 inch thick, and that will bring this up 1 inch, and then I will have 7 7/16. All right, and so that it's just self-corrects as you come down. But then you get to the bottom, and this is one I see this a lot of times when amateurs build steps, is they don't compensate for the bottom one. So likewise on the bottom one you have to compensate. So the bottom one you have to take 1 inch off of the bottom of your stringer, so that when you put the inch on top of here with your tread, you end up to be 7 7/16. Okay, and if you look around, you'll see lots of stairs that have a higher bottom riser, and it's because people haven't made that compensation for that. Another thing that makes a nice set of stairs is your treads and your risers want to be all the same, and that's actually a code thing, and you're allowed a little bit of variance. I think it's about 1/8 of an inch of variance between treads, but you'll see sometimes, you know, where the bottom tread is different, and that's usually when people have used some pre-cut stringer from the lumberyard and haven't, you know, cut them custom like this, and they just cut off the bottom to make it level. So if you've done this right, you know, you'll put a level on here, and these will be level. Okay. If they are running down, then when you're going up and down the stairs, especially going down, it's going to feel like you're running down the stairs because the tread is tipped downwards. And if it's tipped upwards, so it's not level this way, then it feels like you're climbing a mountain. It's very uncomfortable. So you want to make sure that, you know, your treads are level. Okay. So the way I go about this here, I'm going to have 3 stringers, because my span, this is my layout. Eventually I'm going to have these 6x6 posts up here, and this is just a mock-up. Each side of the step is going to have a 6x6 post that's going to go up to support our new roof, and then, you know, from here we'll go to a 6x6 on the corner, and there'll be railing in between. But this is where it's open in between to go up, and because we are quite wide here, that I'm going to put another stringer right in the middle where you walk, and that will take any flex out of the treads. You know, because this is a 1-inch board, it's a 5/4 board, so we want to make sure we have a, you know, a very sound step, and so that's going to give us, you know, about 27 inches in between the stringer. So I've set this up now. So this is where my post is going to end up, and so I'm running, I'll show you on this side here. And so it's hard with my son at the back here. It's really hard to film in this little corner here. But I've lined up the outside of my tread with the outside of my post. All right. And so then my stringer, I mean, is lined up with the outside of the post. And when I put the treads on, I'm going to be hanging them 1 inch over the stringer. That's going to be 1 inch past the edge of that post. When I put my railings on, the railing's going to go to the center of that post, and it will come down on the inside of the tread here. So that will make it feel a bit closer. It's going to look a bit wide here at first, but you know, once the railings go on, you know, there'll be a black metal post, about a 3x3 post down on the bottom, and it will be sitting there on the tread down here. But you can see I've got 42 inches in between the posts up there, which, you know, makes it feel spacious when you're coming up. It makes it feel luxurious, and it's a way that you can you know, make your home feel more expensive, is by you know, making it feel spacious. All right, so once I get my first stringer laid out, instead of doing that square thing each time, I just do the square thing. I lay it out with a square, I mark it, and I cut it out. Now what I've done here is I've traced this one onto that board there. So you know, I've just laid it up on here and just traced it. And the reason that I do that is because it eliminates any error that's that I might have, you know, with holding the square. So I basically will have a carbon copy then of that one, and that way everything's going to line up that way. And I'll do the same thing for the third stringer, and so that way, like I say, make sure that everything is lined up. It eliminates the error factor. Now another thing that I've got going on here is this slab, this landing here, slopes. It slopes quite a bit this way. It's about 3 inches that it slopes this way, and so I have to compensate for that on the bottom stringer. So what I had to do there was I had to nip a little bit off of the back so that the stringer would sit flat on the bricks there. Before I did that, it was sitting on the heel on the back there, and it was off of the paver on the front, and that was causing my treads to tip up as well. And so you know, I measured the height of my total rise, you know, from the top of the deck to the top of the landing over there, and so, you know, I had to compensate by cutting that a little bit crooked, you know, to match the slope of this. So that bottom cut on the stringer is not square to the riser. It's actually comes back like this to compensate for the grade of the pavers. My guard likes to hook on the edge of the point there. All right, so you can see how I haven't gone through there. I broke that one, but I didn't cut all the way through. So now I'm going to finish it. You can see where I broke it out. That I can finish. I'm going to finish this with a handsaw. Oh, where's my handsaw? Here. All right, so then I just come in here like this. You can also do this with a jigsaw. And you know, then once I do that, you know, then I've got a nice clean edge in there compared to, you know, this one here. Okay, and there I broke that one out. So I'm just going to finish these up, and so now I have a carbon copy of that first one that I did, and I will use the first one to cut the next one. I won't use this one. I always go back to the first one that I cut to do my tracing. All right, so I've got that second stringer just kind of sitting here, and so I'm gonna have to do a little trimming on this, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So if you look at the bottom of the stringer here, you can see there's a gap here, and here it's sitting on the heel, right? And so you can see that I've scribed a mark on there, so it goes from about 1/4 of an inch there to, you know, to 0. So you don't want to take anything off the front of your riser. You want to keep that consistent, but you can take it off the back here and nobody's going to notice that. they will notice if it's not sitting on the flat on your stones. So you compare that to this one, where you can see how it's it's sitting flat on the bricks there. And what this will do is my treads are a little bit high on the front now, and so once I take that off, it's going to bring them down to level. Now when you're choosing your wood for this, when you're working with this pressure treated wood, this pressure treated wood is not great wood. It's not really high quality. It's a pretty low end product actually. It's been super wet. It's been dunked in a tank of preservative, and it's really wet. As it dries, it shrinks, curls, all kinds of stuff. But when you're doing this one, pick the best one you can get. You want it flat. You want to try to avoid a curl in it. That first one that I had a bit of a curl in it. I went through several at the lumberyard to get these two boards here. These are 12 footers that I'm using. You want a board that's straight. If it's crooked at all, or if it's curled, that's going to give you a lot of problems when you're trying to lay this out and get everything nice. Like a twist, that doesn't work. You want to avoid cracks, so any that have a big crack. Now you'll see here, I've got a big crack here. Okay, so I have enough board here that I can cut this out. Again, I had to go with what I could find, and it's not easy to find good stuff. You want to avoid big knots like this, especially if you're going to have them down in the support part of the stringer. So a knot like that, we try to get it in here where we're going to cut it out. We don't want to have a knot like that down in here, because what that does, it'll weaken your stringer. Not so important on a small stringer like this, but if you have a longer flight of stairs, it can actually cause a weak point and your stringer can break. If you're doing a bigger, longer flight of stairs, then sometimes you have to double these up, to make it more structurally sound, like building sort of a little beam. All right, so I'm going to trim that one off. Yeah, you can see it. You can see it from this end here, how much above the brick it is there. I got to get that down so it's sitting flat, and that will also help me to level it this way as well. So right now it's a bit high from stringer to stringer. And so again, I've taken my first one. This is the first one that I cut. I used the square to lay it out like I showed you, and then I used that one to trace this one, and now I'm going to use that one to trace my third one. So I always go back to the original one that I cut to do my tracing. And so here I've just laid it up here, and you can see the pencil marks here. This is all ready to cut now, so I'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so I've got all three of them cut now, and I've made my adjustments on the bottom. I haven't taken anything off the fronts of the risers. I've just taken it off the heel. I've just to double check now before I start putting this together. I've taken a straight board and just go across the three. Whenever you have three of something, you want to make sure that you don't have one high or one low, because that can, if that's a high one, then you're going to have a bow in it up. If it's low, it's going to be a dip. And I'm pretty close to being level there. That's close enough for me right on this job. In our climate here, we get a little bit of frost. It's going to settle, it's going to heave. That certainly is level enough for what we're doing here. And this level's a little bit off. If I turn it around, I'll see what happens here. This is an old level. It's been dropped many times. So yeah, so there you can see. I mean, we're right on there. All right. So I'm ready to dip the ends to make get the wood preservative on, and then I'm ready to start cutting my risers. So the next step will be cutting the risers and getting the risers all installed. Okay, so I've got these all dipped with the preservative on the all the cuts, and I'm just going to show you the detail on how I'm hanging these steps. So you have to figure out how you're going to hang it. It's going to depend on your situation. So what I had to do with this one, because my stringers are coming below my joist up here, I had to add this little piece of 2x4 in here. So it just runs the full length and it's just screwed up into the joists, and that gives me a place to rest the stringer back. Because you can see it's a bit low. If this was a 2x10 joist, it would come down another 2 inches. You wouldn't have that problem. But using the 2x8s, you know, and the way my rise has worked out here, this is what I had to do to give the step something to rest against. So it's resting against that piece of 2x4, and again, you know, I treated that with some wood preservative. And so what I've done on the outside of the stringers here is I've fit a piece of 2x4 now in between the two outside stringers, and then I screwed it in from the end here, so that way, you know, we have a finished edge. We're not looking at the butt end of this coming out. And then in the middle, what I did so that, you know, I could keep this one continuous piece going through here instead of having two pieces. It's stronger and it holds together better if you just have one instead of two. So what I did was I just notched this stringer out, the middle one here. I just cut out for the 2x4 so that the 2x4 would run through. And I've just, you know, toe screwed it through here, two on each side. And on this end over here, you know, it's the same as the other side. Okay, so that's just a little detail. So now when our skirting comes in, our skirting's going to come through here and it's going to go underneath. And yeah, you'll see when we get the skirting how this is all going to come together. We're going to be putting you know, a 5/4 by 8 trim board on here to you know, to finish off the skirting. So you'll see how that all comes together. But that's just a little detail there on how, you know, how you hang it. You want to make sure that you have your steps hung solidly, because, you know, you're walking up there, and, you know, if you are carrying something heavy, like moving an appliance in or something like that, if you don't have it secured up there, it can collapse on you. So, you know, you wouldn't want that to happen. Down on the bottom here, no problem. It's just down on the you know, on this little pad down here, and so, you know, that's not going anywhere. So now next step here is I'm gonna cut all my risers and get those installed. And I'm just using a piece of 1/2 inch treated plywood, 4x8 piece of that, and I'll just be cutting my risers out of that. So I'm gonna get going on that now. Okay, so I've got my bottom riser installed, and again, you know, I'm just using 1/2 inch plywood, and I'm just cutting it to the proper height, proper length. Again, you know, all my cut edges, I'm putting the dip preservative on, the kind of the end cut stuff. So this is it here. For you Canadians that speak French, that's the French label. All right, and so it's just this Armor All Mocha Brown. You know, that's all I'm using, just to preserve those ends. And so I've got my next 4 cut here, right here. Got them all sealed on the edge, ready to go. And so here's a little tip for you folks. So my rise is 7 7/16, you know, from here to here. So I'm cutting my riser boards a 1/16 of an inch less. So I'm going 7 3/8, and that just makes it a little bit easier to fit. You want to line up your risers even on the top, so that when your tread board goes over it, it all sits nice and flat. If it's a little bit up, it doesn't matter. You know, this board's going to go up and butt against it, and it'll cover it. So yeah, if you just give yourself a little bit of room there, it can save yourself from a lot of fighting. All right, so I've got all these risers installed now, and I'm just using, you know, the 2 1/4 inch, or sorry, 2 1/2 inch ceramic coated deck screws. Again, they have to be those ACQ rated screws for the treated wood. And so now you can see here how, you know, we compensated for that 1/2 inch. We took that 1/2 inch off here, but now we added it back on here. So now we're back to 10 inches here. So now all of these are 10 inches. Okay, so this one, you know, had the 1/2 inch, this one gets the 1/2 inch, and, you know, so on and so on. So 10-inch run. It's going to be an 11-inch tread. That's going to give us our proper width. You know, we've got the 3 stringers, and this is the closed riser. So this, you know, this closes the riser. You'll see a lot of steps built that have the risers open, so you know you can like look in between the treads. I don't like that. I like it better when it's all enclosed. This also makes a much stronger stair. The plywood gives it that torsional rigidity so that it doesn't rack on you. It's a lot stronger when you do it like this. All right, so now I'm going to start cutting my my tread boards, and we're almost got this wrapped up here. All right, folks, so I'm just getting ready to wrap this up here. So you know, again, I'm using these 5/4 by 6 deck boards. 5/4 means they're 1 inch thick, and I'm just putting 2 on, you know, in order to get my 11 inches. You can see how I've got 1 inch of overhang all the way around on my step there. 1 inch overhang on here and an 1 inch overhang on there. And you can see now, you know, we allowed for that inch so that when we put these boards on, we'd end up at the proper rise here, which in our case is 7 7/16. So you know, that's why we had to set that down. And same thing down here. Let me get you in a little closer here. So you can see now with the 1 inch on top of that, the lower board there, now we're at the 7 7/16 inch from here. All right, so I just got my tripod here, and yeah, I'll just show you how I screw a few boards on here. So I start with the one against the riser first. Just measure it on the other end. And I've measured this in here for 1 inch, and I just, you know, line this up here now. Again, I'm setting my boards tight. I explained to you when I did the deck video how we set these boards tight, because they're green and they will shrink. As they dry out, and these move quite a bit with the seasons. This particular board, this is a pressure treated pine material. Well into October here, and the days are definitely getting shorter. It's only 4:30 and starting to lose my sunlight, but I got a big mountain behind me there too, so the sun goes behind the mountain. Lose it pretty quick this time of the year. So this material is quite wet. It's not recommended that you paint it right away. I'm going to be finishing all the risers and the joists around there with a solid stain. So I'm going to leave it sit for a while and kind of let the fluid flash off and let it dry out a bit. So I'm not sure if I'll get to that this fall or not. I'm starting to run out of time for my outdoor work here. And yeah, we can always paint next spring. Okay folks, I'm gonna just tidy up a bit here and I'll give you one last look at this. Okay folks, so that wraps up another little project here. You know, we just keep chewing away at these, and you know, we're eventually someday we're gonna get done here. But this is a set of stairs, and so now you can see this this open stringer thing. All right, so you know, it's open on the ends, and you can see how the tread wraps around the end of the stairs here. And you know, it's a very simple set of stairs to build. It doesn't take a lot of material. Really easy to build. You know, you can do this. It's a little bit tricky, you know, at the beginning when you do your layout, but if you just, you know, pay attention to those things that I told you, you know, you can do this, no problem. Yeah, so that's it. Eventually we're going to paint the risers, and you know, that deck trim, there's going to be a 3/4 inch or the 5/4 board. Same, it's going to be the same trim as around the door, which will be top the skirting, but it's going to be a bit bigger. That's a 6-inch. We're going to go to an 8-inch around the bottom here, and eventually when we get the fascias, it's going to be an 8-inch fascia. All right folks, so thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.